If you don't know how to make 20 bucks, you sure can't make 40 or 50 bucks. But if you don't know how to make 20 bucks and spend it wisely or keep it, man, that 20 bucks is going to slip through your fingers. Hey guys, welcome back to It's All of Your Business on the YMaily Podcast Network. It is great to have you guys back. My name is Nicholas Woolsey. I am the host of this podcast, and I'm super pumped to go into episode 2 with you right now. This episode, we're going to be talking about getting that bread, sort of to go along with the food theme of episode 1. However, this time we're not talking about food, but rather that bread, that money, and how I went about life acquiring money in order to survive. I want to say real quick before we dive into this that all of your messages, all of your DMs, all of your YouTube comments have meant so much to me over the past week. It really is quite humbling how open people have been to me and how many people have come to me and said that the podcast helped them and that they found value in it. That is literally why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to help as many people as possible. And so thank you very much. In this podcast, I want to talk about how my family and I went about making money, specifically about myself, because, you can't really tell someone else's story as well as they can, but you can tell your own story better than anyone can tell your story. So I will tell you my story, though it is interwoven with some of my family members and relatives growing up. If you haven't already gotten this message yet, growing up in my family was not easy. There was not a lot of food on the table. That's what we covered last week. And so this week, we're talking about how we survived when there wasn't money. And it feels like there was never money. There was never, and money's kind of like, in today's society, it's almost taboo to talk about money, but here's what we're doing. We're just talking about it. Okay. We're just going to talk about it. And so from a very young age, having grown up with a single mother and all that goes with that, I found that if I wanted to buy stuff for myself or if I wanted to own something, I had to actually get out and make the money myself because, frankly, it wasn't coming from anywhere else. So I'm just going to kind of run down the list of, I hate to use this terminology, but the hustles that I had as a little kid. The grind, none of that seems appropriate for like what I was doing. Anyways, the earliest thing that I can remember doing to make money was selling candy to construction workers. And this was not a long ongoing thing, but rather it may have only happened one time where we bought candy. I believe my mother may have fronted the money and bought candy from the grocery store. And then I just remember selling it to these guys in the summertime that were like fixing the road in our city. Like selling candy to the construction workers sticks out vividly in my mind. I do remember selling lemonade and hot dogs on my street corner. That is a very vivid, very fond memory of mine. Once again, mom fronted the money. I made money and then paid her back, I believe. I guess mom can correct me if I'm wrong on that. These are all around the age of 7 to 9 years old, I would say. Selling lemonade and hot dogs on the street corner. My mom made the lemonade, and I'm pretty sure she cooked the hot dogs, but I sat there and sold them, I guess, is what that is. And then selling snow cones on the same street corner. I feel like I just did a lot of stuff, like a lot of things to come up with the money to buy the things that I wanted or needed. So selling snow cones on the street corner, I had like this little ice shaver thing. The handle spun in a circle and there was a blade inside, and you had like these chunks of ice that you would stick in there and it would shave it down, and then had like the little colored syrup that you put in there. I would sell that stuff. Like that was so cool, right? Man, I wish I had one of those right now. Another thing that I did, and I feel like I was very successful at this, was selling merchandise out of a catalog for this sales program called Olympia Sales Club. If you grew up in the early 90s, you may remember this. I think it was put out through the schools. Basically, this is what it was. It was a catalog. You got them, I think, twice a year around springtime and then right before like the fall Christmas season. And so you get this nice packet in the mail. It came with a catalog, full color, high quality, and it had an assortment, like so many things in there. Potpourri dishes and candles and cookies, Christmas tree ornaments, and like home decor. So much stuff in this catalog that appealed to, I would say, mainly women like 30s to 50s or 30s to 60s. Yeah, probably like 30s to 60s. Like that was the demographic that I was selling to. And it was great because you could sell these things. And then whenever you filled out your little form to ship it in, you would tell them what prize you wanted. So there was a prize catalog that came along with it. You could pick a prize depending on the dollar amount or the item sold, or you could request cash. And of course, you know, your boy went for the cash, always 100%. And so I just remember like going to church, being like 7, 8, 9 years old, going to church and selling these ladies on some potpourri dishes. And like, that's one of my most fond sales memories ever. It was amazing. And the cool thing is like, I got it in my brain as a very young child that if I can sell a person one time, I can sell them a second time, no doubt. And so that is what ended up happening. I ended up building some regular customers, which was excellent. Olympia Sales Club was good for me. I was sad to find out that they actually shut down several years back. But yeah, I guess that's that. So let's move on to sort of like what the family did for money. My mom was a stay-at-home mom once she got married to my stepdad, and he was a pest control inspector, termite inspector. And so he would go to homes in Southern California and he would check the wood in the rafters and outside along the edge of the house. He would crawl under the house and inspect the beams and all that stuff for termites. And I probably know, honestly, way too much about termite inspecting for my own good health. But that is what he did. Now, we're going to kind of dive down into this, and I'm going to give my perspective of this growing up because it was not necessarily a very good situation for our family. That being, I just remember, I don't know the details. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I remember, my stepdad would leave at a certain time, let's say 7 o'clock in the morning, but he would be home by 10 a.m. It was 3 hours later and would say that there was no work, which was just strange to me because we live in beautiful, sunny San Diego County. And I don't know, I just felt like it was a land of opportunity. Like the opportunity should be there. The work should be there. And so coming home after 3 hours was just strange to me. And so I brought this up one day. I would say I was probably around 10 or 11 years old and said, hey, you could probably go like hang door hangers and drum up some business, or pass out flyers or drum up some business. And I remember whenever I said that, he looked at me and he said something to the effect of, you can go hang the door hangers, something like that. And I said, okay, all right. And so he brought home door hangers. And I just remember like one evening, my family dropped me off in this neighborhood of homes that we knew, like this housing development, when it was being built, it got put on hold for like 6 years after the houses were framed. So that's like prime opportunity for termites to get into the house. And so like this just made sense. The termites were there. And then they finished building the houses. So they were new houses, but they had been sitting as skeletons for 6 years. Man, this is like prime picking for a termite pest control company. And so I just remember going house to house and like putting up door hangers for him so I could drum up some business for my stepdad. And I honestly don't know what became of that. I don't know if any work became of it for him, but I just remember seeing that he was getting off way too early, right? And knowing that something wasn't right and something had to be done. And so at 10 or 11 or 12 years old, I stepped in and I took care of that, right? So kind of a proud moment for me. Super pumped about that. When I was 15, my parents and my mom, my stepdad, and my family and I were planning on going on a trip. This is going to be a trip out of California, going into Arizona. I think it was like South Dakota, and then down to Arizona and back to California. So like a big triangle. And I was we needed a lot of money, and so we came up with this idea that we would go to the nice neighborhood where my stepdad's parents lived. And we saw the problem, right? Because entrepreneurs or business people, you're a problem solver before you're anything else. And we saw there was a problem. In California, on the curb along the road, in front of the homes, you'll find the address of the home painted on the curb. It'll be a white rectangle about 12 inches or so. And then it will have black numbers that is the address of the home. And we noticed that all of these were peeling off, all of them. And so I don't know whose idea it was. I don't know if it was my stepdad or my mom. I doubt it was mine. But someone came up with the idea. Let's go buy some spray paint cans, make some stencils, buy some number stencils, make a big, a rectangle stencil. Let's start painting these addresses and we'll charge for it. And so we had a little cart. I think my mom and my sister would walk in front of my stepdad and I. She'd walk ahead and go to the doors and say, "Hey, we're out here spray paint or painting your address on your curb. Like, do you want this done?" I want to say it was like $10. So yeah, like it's $10 and it makes your house look nicer. It's cleaner. Like it make curb appeals, crispy, whatever. And so I feel like it was every single house we were doing. My mom would go to a house, sell them on it. And then as soon as we got the thumbs up, my stepdad and I would slap that little rectangle stencil on there, spray paint white, wait 10 or 15 seconds for it to quick dry. And then we'd slap the numbers right there. Boom, hit it with black, done, $10. Couldn't have taken more than a minute, like maybe a minute. And the sales pitch basically sold itself, which was awesome. And so then my mom would move to the next house while we were painting. And if she gave us the thumbs up, we just moved straight down the line. And we were conquering like neighborhoods of this. And then we came up with the idea, well, let's start customizing it. Let's add in a couple little things, right? So let's add in little pictures. I remember one of them was a surfboard, Southern California, everybody surfs. One of them was a palm tree, Southern California. One of them was an American flag, America. And so we had these additional little add-ons that people could pay $5 for us to spray paint. And we just hit it with a little bit of spray paint. It was a stencil, boom, done. And like we upped our sales revenue by 50% per house because people would tack on that extra $5. It's $5 to us because we had nothing. It was a lot, like $15. People paying $15 for us to spray paint their house number on their curb. This is incredible, right? To them, it was nothing. It's $15. Like you spend $15 getting like a coffee and a donut. But to us, it was the world, right? And so I want to say we raised like $1,000 in 2 weeks or something for our trip, which was, that's nothing to shake a stick at, I guess. Little disclaimer. I did not end up going on that trip. The rest of my family went ahead. I actually moved out. I was 15 and some of the difficulties between my stepdad and I came to a head, and I ended up moving out 2 or 3 weeks before that trip actually took place. So I never went to South Dakota and to Arizona for that trip. Kind of a bummer, but yeah, that was that. Also, I mean, in all transparency and honesty, I did steal a portion of that money when I was leaving because I was like, I worked for it. So as I was moving out, I did like lift some of that money. Not proud of that, but that's what I did. Also during the time, I would say like the 12 to 15 area, I was also personally by myself mowing grass, right? So like in Southern California, everybody, like it's always sunny. It's always sunny. And so if you take care of your yard, you have grass year round, which means money year round if you're a grass cutter. And so I was cutting grass year round. Boom. It was excellent money. I mean, for a kid that's 12, 13, 14 years old, and getting paid $20 to $40 per yard. And like, this is not like mow and rake and pick up and like none of that. It was just mow and go. That's it. Right. And so like, I push my lawnmower around the neighborhood, just go up to their door. Hey, you want me to cut your grass for $20? And most people would say yes, because it's $20, which is like nothing for getting your grass cut. And so I did that. And then one time this lady was like, hey, after you get done cutting the grass, I would really appreciate if you could clean the window screens on my house. She said, we can take them down, we can clean them all. And then, it'll make my house, the light come in to my house better. I don't know if that was actually a thing, but she felt like it would help her house be brighter inside. And so she told me she would pay me $40 for that. And so I went around her house and took off all the screens, and she gave me a broom and soapy water, and sucker, I brushed those screens. I don't know if it did anything, but she was happy and I made some dough. And so like that's what she had me doing. Once a month I would come to her house and do the screens, and then twice a month I would come to her house and cut her grass. Really, really cool jobs growing up. Through my teens, like 15 through 18, 19-ish, I worked in retail and fast food. Was not really into that world at all. Not a retail kind of guy. Joined the Navy at 19, did 5 years there. I call the Navy the best mistake I ever made. It brought me to Connecticut, which is where I met my wife. And then it was like a steady paycheck. But I think that's all the good that I can actually say about the Navy. Yeah. Got out of the Navy, started a mobile auto detailing business, and Elite Details is what it was called. Basically, had a Ford panel van. I had a 50-gallon tank for water in the back, pump, generator, pressure washer, all the brushes and soap and everything. Had it all. Did 1 year of that through freezing cold winter and humiliatingly hot summer. Sweat your face off on the wet asphalt in the middle of the blazing sun, 1,000% humidity. Built the business for 1 solid year, built clientele, would just go to banks, go inside. Hey, I'm here. I'm Nick. I work for Elite Details. We are a premier auto detailing business, and we have our mobile unit out in the parking lot. Can you let all of your tellers know? And I'll be back in 10 minutes to pick up keys, and so I can start cleaning cars. And like clockwork, 6, 8, 10 a piece per bank, paying anywhere from $35 to $55 depending on the package. Also having like really, really elite packages, which would go in the area of $250 to $350. That's like the really in-depth cleaning, scraping the underside of the car, shampooing, the whole 9 yards. Really, really good business. Really solid money. Not comfortable, but after 1 year, I was presented with an offer to sell the business for twice my startup capital. And so what it cost me to buy the van, all the gear, get the clientele, like all of it, this was 2 times that amount of money to sell the business. And so I sold it. And I thought, well, this would be a good time to go to college, I guess, because being in the Navy for 5 years comes with a college degree. They send you to college for 4 years, and you get a free college degree for being in the military. And so I went for 2 years, ended up dropping out because towards the end of the second years, whenever I picked up a camera, realized I really love this and I'm not horrible at it, and started charging people. The way that happened, someone saw me taking pictures. They were like, "Hey, do you photograph weddings?" I said, "No, but I'll give it a shot." And they said, "Okay, well, this is someone I knew." They said, "Okay, well, my daughter's getting married. How much would you charge us?" And it was like, I think I said like $150, and they were like, "How about 300?" And I said, "Okay." And so I photographed the wedding. I photographed a vow renewal, and then suddenly I had another wedding, and suddenly I had another wedding, and it just kind of like absorbed me into it. Um, the pictures weren't great, right? Like compared to what I know now, like the pictures were not great, but it just kept picking up, and before you know it, I was getting paid 1,300, then 1,700, then 2,500, then 3,000, then 4,500, and like it just kept picking up, kept picking up. Um, so I did that from 2010 until May of this year, so 9 years. Um, yeah, like a couple months ago. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Sorry. Uh, that was cool. It was a good business. Well, so I quit college because that business started taking off, and never really looked back at the college stuff. And I think the common denominator out of all of this is that I realized from an early age that you don't have to be in a business, or sorry, you don't have to be in a job to make money. I was making money all over the place. Now I probably could have refined it and stuck with some stuff longer to actually like build it up. But I realized from a really young age that you don't have to have a job to get money. Money's everywhere. You can go out and do something that interests you, whether it be buy this and resell it, or whether it be take pictures, or whether it be cut grass and do manual labor. Like money's out there. You don't have to have a normal day job to get that money. Like, and even with like internet, social media, Instagram, like I love Instagram, all these things, like it just opens the doors up so much wider now than it ever has been, ever, right? And so then closed down the photography business this year. Well, about a year and a half ago, no, 2 years ago, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, started the 2017 Flip Challenge. And my wife and I were like, let's try that. That sounds fun. Buy stuff, sell it on the internet. And if you could make $20,170, so 2017. And if you could do that, then Gary Vee would like shout you out, and you would have like, you'd be in the running for a chance to go meet him or something. So we did this. We did not make the $20,170, but we started buying video games. That was like our niche. We started buying video games from thrift stores, from consignment shops, from Craigslist. We live in a huge military area. And so I would just go on every single night and I would find people that were selling video games. Boom, slamming them. And these guys, being military, they were often being shipped out and they had to get rid of all their stuff. And having been in the military, I know the mindset. Whenever you make money like that, it's almost like free money consistently on a regular schedule. Things lose sort of the value that you would have, that you would put on them if you had like really worked for them. So video games and video game consoles, those things don't hold like a tremendous amount of value to a lot of younger military guys, because it's just like free money and you just go blow your money on it, and there's always money, right? And so I would meet up with these guys and they'd be like, I have 30 games, I'll sell it to you for $60. And I'd be like, 30 games, $45. And they'd be like, all right, cool. Like they just don't care. And I'd flip those 30 games for $300, right? And that's how we started. That's how we started rolling this whole thing. And yeah, I think we fell off of that because the video games suddenly dried up. It's like everybody knew what I was doing, or maybe I was doing it like so good that I just bought and resold all the video games. I don't know. Anyways, so it dried up, and we kind of went back to the photography thing and stayed focused. And then if you're familiar with my backstory and kind of what I've shared through YouTube, you'll know that we hit some financial trouble at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018 with cryptocurrency. Shout out to BitConnect, the gnarliest Ponzi scheme I've ever been a part of. The only Ponzi scheme I've ever been a part of, but it was a doozy. So yeah, we picked up the reselling in April of 2018 to kind of get back on our feet. And that's whenever I found out about Mercari and then Poshmark, and I was selling on eBay and went through the summer of 2018, like crushing it, and then fell sort of like on accident into Amazon in October of 2018. I had a friend on Instagram. He was like, hey, he sells shoes online on eBay. And so he's like, hey, we have, let's go for Amazon. Let's try to get into Amazon. Like, he wanted to do it. He knew I wanted to do it. So he challenged me. Let's sign up today and see who can make the first sale. And so we signed up, and I don't know who made the first sale. I know that like as soon as I listed something, it sold, which was awesome. And I think that the same thing may have happened for him, like been the case for him. I remember the first thing I sold was a DVD VHS combo player. I cannot find these things anymore. I was finding like one or two every single thrift store I was going to and selling them for 60, 80, 90 bucks, merchant fulfilled on Amazon, which was incredible. Like I was keeping so much money and they were selling within like hours of posting them. Excellent. And so that was the first thing I sold on Amazon. And you guys know the rest. Like that quickly morphed into books and focusing on that. I still have stuff for sale on eBay. I still have shoes for sale on Poshmark, but that Amazon, right? Like that's where all the attention is focused on. So this was kind of like, this is how it was growing up. Like there wasn't a lot of money, and it was basically like, if you want something, you got to get it yourself. My mom reminds me of a story or of scenarios growing up where I don't remember buying things as a kid. I don't remember going to the store and spending my money, but I do remember laying on my bed and counting my money 100 times. Like I remember my birthday party, had some friends over, like cake and ice cream was cool, but someone gave me some money, like some change and some dollars, and I wanted nothing to do with my friends at that moment. I wanted to go put all my money together and count it like 10 or 12 times to see that it was all there and how much was there. Like, so maybe that kind of like lets you inside of my head and why I'm so hyper focused on building wealth, generational wealth, and then giving back, because I want to be able to help people that are stuck in that cycle, because man, that's an ugly cycle to get out of, and it's so difficult to break free from, because if you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know how to make 20 bucks, you sure can't make 40 or 50 bucks. But if you don't know how to make 20 bucks and spend it wisely or keep it, man, that 20 bucks is going to slip through your fingers. You know, there's an analogy that I talk about sometimes where a millionaire, like you look at these millionaires and even billionaires, they go bankrupt. They lose everything and they go bankrupt. But within 1 or 2 years, they're back to where they were. And here's what I've determined is the reason for that. Once you know how to make money to a certain threshold, you already know, like, you know it. It's not hard to get back there. You know the steps to take. I have never made $200,000 in a year. I've never made that. I plan to make that, but I've never made 200K in a year. So I don't know what the steps are to get there, but I do know how to make 100K in a year. So like if I lost everything, I could build back up to that, and that wouldn't be a problem. But I know people that have never made more than 50K a year. So for them to make 100K, they don't know the steps. I look at it and say, like, it's not that crazy. It's not that hard. Here's the steps. But they know the 50, right? That's sort of where they're at. They have to break beyond that. My whole life was this thing of like stair stepping and learning the different levels and the different rungs of the ladder, I guess, to making more money each time you make money, right? So like, yeah, it's all stair stepping. And that's kind of like the snapshot of my life growing up. So am I hyper focused and hyper aware on about making money and building massive wealth, generational wealth, so that I can get, yeah, I'm hyper aware because I know that I don't know how to make $1 million a year, but I'm going to learn. What you focus on grows, right? What you put your attention to, you will see growth in. If you don't physically sit down and try to learn math, guess what? You're not going to learn math. If you don't sit down and focus on learning to play the guitar, you will not learn the guitar. So what you focus on grows. If you focus on your money and learning how it works and learning the processes that you have to go through to make that money, guess what's going to happen? That money is going to grow. I want to leave you guys with a quote here that I love, and I think I'm going to have a t-shirt made of this. The quote goes like this: everything worthwhile is uphill. Everything worthwhile, everything worth having, everything worth doing, everything worth being is uphill. Nothing worth doing is easy, right? Everything worth having, doing, and being is uphill. Thank you guys for listening to this rather lengthy podcast. I hope that it opened your eyes. I hope that it showed you kind of a glimpse of my life, where I came from. If you're in the same struggle, know that there is hope, that you're in that uphill climb because there's something worthwhile at the top. I love you guys. I'm so glad that you stayed around this long to listen, and I look forward to episode 3. It's All of Your Business is produced and edited by myself, Nicholas Woolsey. Our executive producer is Jason Fowler. It's All of Your Business is brought to you by Y Millie and is a proud member of the Y Millie Podcast Network. If you like the show, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Nicholas Woolsey, and remember, it's all of your business.